Hi there, Phil again. So this tip is one of the series that I'm doing on indoor pot plants, and it's about whether you should choose a range of foliage plants for your house or perhaps put on a floral display. Now the two aren't necessarily exclusive, however there may be reasons for going more in one direction than another. Now even though in my past life I have actually been responsible for conservatories and winter gardens for municipal authorities, I have very few houseplants in my house, mainly because I actually have a big range of outdoor plants and I don't particularly need them. I do have quite a lot of orchids in my house. I take them in when they're flowering. However, apart from that, I don't have particularly many plants. So I've chosen to produce this video today in front of my vertical garden that I have on my terrace, which is actually immediately outside my house and sheltered similar to the house. And you could have a structure like this in your house, or have a shelving unit that you had layers of African violets or other plants. So you can be quite creative about how you display these things. Having a display of floral plants flowering beautifully in your house is the most spectacular way that you can portray plants and produce a wow factor that visitors or yourself will appreciate. However, most flowering plants are seasonal, and so therefore it is unwise to treat them as a year-round fixture in your house. So I generally suggest have a series of vegetative and foliage plants inside your house, focusing on dramatic foliage, texture, form, and then simply use the flowering plants as the icing on the cake. Something you can take in seasonally to finish to set off the display, but still have an attractive plant display when you don't have them in the house. So I'll discuss the range of plants, first of all looking at foliage plants and then floral ones, and their strengths and weaknesses and how you can use them. So firstly, foliage plants. Most foliage plants come from shaded forests and tropical regions, so in most cases they thrive in indoor conditions, including those with poor light. However, many also grow happily in high light situations, so long as it isn't direct sunlight. Despite their tropical origins, the warmth of homes in temperate zones is generally adequate. These plants often prefer higher humidity than what is found indoors, which can be remedied by growing groups of plants together or providing humidity through methods such as misting or using a humidifier. Examples of these plants are Aphelandra, Croton and Prayer plants. Most indoor foliage plants aren't particularly nutrient hungry and may only grow slowly. If they're growing in a shady part of the house, they may also need less watering. In fact, it may be easier to overwater than underwater them. When buying the plants, aim for variation in leaf texture, colour and patterning to create an interest. Next I'll move on to flowering plants. Now flowering plants have rather different requirements from foliage plants, so if you are growing them together, it may be that you need to allow for this in the way that you choose to groom them and feed them and water them. Flowering houseplants usually require high light intensity to initiate or maintain flowering, often as close to full sunlight as possible. An example would be Kalanchoe blossfeldiana. As a consequence, they tend to need regular watering and do not tolerate drying out. They also need regular feeding with a balanced plant food at the full recommended rate to replace the nutrients lost through flowering. An exception to these suggestions is moth orchids or Phalaenopsis, which will flower in relatively shady conditions and are best fed with plant food at about 50% the recommended rate. Some flowering houseplants only flower once, although the flowers can last for a long period. Cinerarias are an example. Others will flower for a specific season, such as cyclamen in winter. Many tuberous begonia flower for a long period over summer. Both of these, among others, have a dormant season when they die down to a swollen storage organ, such as a corm or bulb. During the season they can be kept dry and brought back into growth before the following flowering season. Ideally then you would actually have a greenhouse or some protected growing area where you could start them off for the flowering season. So that's it for this tip. I hope you got some value out of it, and I hope that you're inspired to grow plants, particularly foliage plants indoors, but lifting them with a display of flowering plants amongst them certainly adds a wow factor to your home. So thanks very much for watching this through to the end. Don't forget to like this tip and also subscribe if you haven't done so, and share this with others who might be interested in my channel. So thanks again.